Welcome to the Indiana 4-H Clover Call podcast, where our goal is to share information about the people and programs that make the Indiana 4-H Youth Development Program such an important part of our communities. We welcome youth and adult 4-H volunteers, 4-H youth and their families, extension professionals, and any others who are interested in providing positive opportunities for youth. We thank you for joining us for this episode, which begins now.
Hey, welcome to this edition of the Clover Call podcast. I'm Adam Tyler, 4-H educator in Fountain County, and today I'm joined by Bill Decker. And to start out, Bill, if you would just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your background and what brought you into Extension.
Sure. Well, I'm a bit of a latecomer to Extension. Way back when I was going through college, my major was going to be finance. Well, it was finance. And I was in my senior year of finance when the market took a huge tumble in 1987. It lost a quarter of its value in a day. And it became apparent that there'd be no jobs for quite a long time in finance because they were laying everyone off. And so I decided to go for more of a passion and stayed in for a couple more years, got my master's in history, and became a museum director, which I thoroughly loved. But I figured out after a number of years of that, what I really loved was not the part of being a director that involved, the meetings and all that other fun stuff. It was working with the kids. Whenever I got a chance to go down and actually give a tour or something, when I had to fill in for my education people, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, with the kids and talking to them. So I decided to go back, get a teaching license. And went into middle schools and then high schools teaching what I thought was going to be all history. And of course, with my business background, they pulled me into economics. They pulled me into business. And all of a sudden I found when I was teaching high school that they wanted me to start teaching robotics and computer programming. And it's like, okay, I can do that, but it's not really what I went to school for, but I still did the rest at the same time. And started doing that, liked it a lot more than I ever thought I would. And basically over the years of teaching a lot of different things, I really started thinking, what I really wanted to do was being something like Extension that was very educational based, but wasn't necessarily, in the same school every day. I get to see more kids, actually maybe make a little more impact in my own county. And so I then applied for Extension, and about 9 months later, I got the job, and I've been here now about 2 years, and have definitely enjoyed it. It's been a little bit of a rocky start. I started it during COVID, and that wasn't a very good time for Extension. It's amazing that everything kept moving with Extension.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy to be here now, where it's getting to be more of our new normal, and we have an idea where we're heading now.
That's awesome. And you have a very unique background, and just, and the different ways you've had opportunity to work with youth and, and bring your expertise into Extension is really neat. And that's, and you hit on a good point, the opportunity to be able to work with a diverse audience and many kids, and
right.
I was a teacher. I had the same class, you teach that class, you see that same group all year, but with Extension, you never know. You can see one audience you see in the morning might be totally different than the audience you see in the afternoon, but it's so much fun to get to see such a neat, wide range of audiences for sure, especially.
And it is. And I'm already getting a chance to, kind of see the kids multiple times a year doing different things. I'm getting a better rounded, really look at the kids than I did even as a teacher. And so it's really neat. I'm looking forward to, seeing the kids I worked with in third grade become 10 years. I think that's going to be awesome.
Yep. That's awesome. So I know you mentioned like you had the opportunity to teach robotics and computers. So what drew you into, like, from a 4-H standpoint, into kind of the STEM realm and the drone realm and what really fits with you with the science base, but what really drew you into that part of 4-H?
Well, actually, my second day with Extension was our area summer camp. Okay. And so that was trial by fire going straight into summer camp. And I was there, and Mark Carter, who is an educator in A&R up in Blackford County, came over to our summer camp and was flying these little tello drones with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of volunteered to help out, and really kind of got into it and started finding out more what the tellos could do other than just flying. You could program them like robots and everything else. And then I found out that every area had 6 or 7 of these things. Some of them they're using a lot. Some of them are sitting in boxes in some area office.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured I had to kind of explore that, and bought a couple of my own, and took them out to a school and immediately had the kids' attention. And they're flying these drones inside. They never thought they could do that kind of stuff. And I figured, hey, this is a hook, and I can't pass up a hook.
Yeah.
And so I really started getting pulled into that, and of course did a little rocketry on the side, and done electrical and a few other STEM-based programs out in the schools. But I think probably the one that the kids like the most is probably drone-based.
Mm-hmm.
And a chance to scare their teachers flying drones in the classroom. The kids love it. They love it.
Yeah, drones are neat. I just, the more I've kind of started looking into that too, it's amazing what you can do with them. I mean, and I'm sure, especially with kids today, the way they have embraced technology, whether it's on a phone, an iPad, video games, they have much more of a technology mindset. And then to give them a remote control and to try to run something, to them, they love it. And I could see that totally fitting in with them. That's amazing. I really think that's neat how you brought that into the schools and how you're using that.
The biggest problem we have with the kids is when you hand them that remote control, whether it's an iPad or a phone or whatever, they're looking right at that pad and phone and not looking at the drone that's out here.
Okay.
And so we have to kind of teach them, no. You don't look at the pad, look at the drone, because
Yeah.
otherwise you will hit the teacher.
Oh, no.
Or somebody else, you will do damage. So, we're trying to get them to use technology, but also still be in contact with the real world.
Yeah.
And I really love that about drones, is the fact that,
Yeah.
you're using this really neat technology, these great interface systems, but you're still using your eyes. You're still looking at that drone, seeing what it's doing, seeing how it's reacting to the environment around it, air moving or whatever. And then you're adjusting to that. So, you're part of that link. You're that interface between the computer and the drone, and you're the one really controlling it. And getting there, it does get their faces away from that iPad a little bit, even though it's in their hands, which is really useful.
Absolutely. So when we think of looking at with drones and, from the STEM standpoint, bringing that in, that's amazing. And the things that drones can bring in and you can use from a science standpoint to teach. If an educator or a volunteer wanted to find resources on this, what would you suggest on how they get started, or where would they maybe try to track down some of these resources so they could bring it to their community or county?
Sure. Well, if it's an educator, number one, start looking for where the drones are in your area, because every area is supposed to have a box of tello drones. And even if they look like they've been destroyed, you can repair these cheaply. They're tough little drones. And so get your hands on them. Some areas are using the heck out of their drones, and some are sitting in a box. So, call the folks in your area, figure out where your drones are. 2, if you want any help on how we can use these as platforms for programming, what we can do with them. Even I have my little obstacle course, which is nothing more than flower pots, concrete, hula hoops, and PVC. I can show you how to build them on the cheap. We're not going to spend a lot of money doing that. Any questions on, what happens when this breaks? Why is this doing that? Call me. Also, I'm going to volunteer Mark here, Mark Carter, through our A&R side, helps run the UAV group, the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle group for Extension. And Mark has a tremendous access to resources and people. And he can help you out. He might be able to come out if you're in this area, in the north central area, northeast area of the state. He might be able to come out and do demonstrations. Purdue has a number of ag pilots that just got some new drones, and I'm sure they'd like to show them off. They might come out and do demonstrations with you. We also have some spray drones with Purdue, and these are monsters. They look like small helicopters. They carry up to, 26 gallons of spray. If you think of that at 8 pounds a gallon, that's a huge payload that they can carry. So, there are a lot of different resources, but feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to help whatever I can do.
Okay. Just to help people kind of locate you a little easier, what county are you in, and what county is Mark Carter in, so they can maybe help track down which
Sure.
extension office to locate you in?
Mark's up in Blackford County,
Okay.
which is, if you know the Muncie area, go
Mm-hmm.
north. You're about in Blackford. And I'm over here at Madison County. So those of you that are familiar with I-69 going between
Mm-hmm.
Indy and Fort Wayne, you make that big, weird turn on I-69 where at one point you're heading east, then you're heading north. You're in Madison County. That's where we're at.
Awesome. So from your standpoint, your expertise, why do you feel that kind of utilizing the STEM, from a STEM standpoint, utilizing drone technology, why do you think, or how do you think it's going to be beneficial to our youth today? And how can this maybe possibly help them with future careers?
Well, absolutely. Well, we're looking, if we just look at drones right now, just,
Mm-hmm.
just take that little sliver of the STEM pie off the table here. Right now, the prediction is that drones are going to require 100,000 new drone pilots and experts in the next 2 years.
Wow.
So that's the kind of growth we're looking at. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you're flying with a third grader, telling them to become a drone pilot in 2 years is not feasible.
Mm-hmm.
But I can imagine how many uses there are going to be for drones when
Mm-hmm.
those kids are ready to fly. And those kids, by the way, can become pilots at the age of 16.
Okay.
Which means they can get paid to fly drones at the age of 16. Right now, going rate to fly a drone is about $40 an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
and that's just, flying ag,
mm-hmm.
Flying over fields or flying for realtors, taking cool pictures of houses or whatever.
Okay.
If you get into more specialized drone work, if you start getting into spray drone work, honestly, I think it's going to be rare to see an ag cat
Mm-hmm.
spraying a field in another 10 or 15 years. I think that's totally going to be drone based because it's going to be cheaper, more accurate. Drones can make 90-degree turns. Ag cats can't. If you think about overspray and issues, it's amazing what drones are able to do now. And the drones are getting bigger and able to handle that. And the FAA is figuring out how to do that.
Yeah.
The number of jobs opening in the drone field is just immense. And there's even if kids want to go the military route, there are just tremendous numbers of drone jobs in the military. It used to be a military pilot, you had to already gotten your bachelor's degree, and then you were probably going to go to a service academy. To be a drone pilot today, if you're a kid good with your fingers, you know how to run a video game, and you know how to follow orders, you can come in out of high school and go into training to become a drone pilot in the military.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it is, the world is opening up to drones. They were toys 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They are a profession now, and it will only get bigger.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's, and I just think, and that's why I was excited, to get to interview you and just kind of get people thinking about this, because, it's neat that I think a lot of people kind of miss this opportunity with 4-H because, you don't always assume, you don't picture 4-H having anything to do with drones. Like you said, it's an ag, you see that. But I love that you're bringing this in and talking about how you're utilizing this, because, we want our listeners to know that there are, drone programs can very much be an active part of 4-H. We can get our youth involved.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. We're looking right now, maybe a year or two out, and we will have drone competitions as part of 4-H.
That's awesome.
Maybe at the state fairgrounds. The idea right now is there would be basically an agility obstacle course test. There would be a knowledge test working towards drone licensing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then there'd be a programming test to program these like robots.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So it would cross a lot of different areas. And we're in the early stages of working on that.
Okay.
Just like our science folks are working to get a robotics competition this next year up and going for 4-H. Figure about a year out from there, we'll have a drone competition.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, that's something neat to look forward to, because I just, like you said, I had no idea what the numbers, when you threw that number out, how many drone pilots are going to be needed. That's just, it's hard to wrap your head around that, something that, like you said, was just several years ago was just something we used as a toy and played with outside, to where now we're looking at a 6-digit number of, possibilities of people that are going to be needed to fill careers in this area. this is neat. I think this is an opportunity that, with the way 4-H focuses on youth and we help develop youth every day. This is going to be able to help develop youth in a new way, and
Right.
Especially with the college and career readiness focus, this could get some kids into I'll have to admit, a pretty cool career. I think you and I both would have had a lot of fun in a career like that, getting to play with drones every day, back.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the stuff that's going on campus right now.
Yeah.
They have a full UAV program, and they're along with a lot of other campuses and other locations. They're working on human drones. In other words, a drone that a human will hop into and it will fly them to their destination.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay.
There are a few already flying, not on campus yet. There are a few flying. Honestly, 10 to 15 years. If you want to go to Indy Airport, you'll get on your phone. You'll go to an Uber-like interface. You will ask for a drone to fly to the nearest field next to your house, not airfield, but field or large parking lot. It will land. You will get into it. It will take you to the Indy Airport with your luggage. You'll hop out at the Indy Airport, switch over to a jet, fly anywhere in the world you want to fly.
Oh, wow.
That's not pie in the sky.
Yeah.
That's happening. That is happening. And again, just all the jobs related to that, not just flying and programming the drone, but the engineering side, electric motors, battery propulsions. I mean, it's amazing how many jobs are going to be tied to this industry.
Yeah. Well, and just to get your insight on just where this is going in the next few years to the next, decade or two, I just, and like you were mentioning, just like with ag alone, I've talked to a few producers that have utilized the ag drones, especially for spraying. And they do, they said, at first, they were like, wow, that's a kind of an expensive bill to bring this flight out and spray. But by the time they really pull the numbers and look at it, they said, we can take this drone and say, we have 10 spots in our field we need to spray. They'll get down to the square foot of exactly where we want to apply. That's all the chemical we use. So even though, yes, the upfront cost seems bad, but by the time I have a sprayer come out, hire an applicator, they pay for the truck, they pay for the driver. They said it's an astronomical. And they said, and also sometimes when those sprayers, that maybe they miss that spot, but that drone is so precise that it's amazing, just the different ones I've had a chance to talk to. And I got a chance to talk to one gentleman at Purdue. They were talking about putting thermal cameras on some of the drones.
Right.
Where I think they were using them in, well, I know law enforcement's used them for like tracking down suspects. So it's a lot less danger to law enforcement. So if a youth wants to go in law enforcement, I mean, drones could be that, or all the way to livestock. Livestock producers could take their drone up and fly it and do a field check at night and not even have to, sit on their porch. But it's, even for me, looking at this, just seeing where the technology has gone has just been amazing, for sure.
It's huge. And we do, as Extension, own some drones flying cameras that are near infrared and infrared.
Yeah.
That are amazing. And, even flying in the normal RBG, the red, green, blue spectrum you see on TV.
Yep.
I have one of my volunteers here in the county, works for the sheriff's department.
Okay.
He has a drone. And if we have either a fatality or a near fatal accident, he's called out anywhere in the county. He puts the drone up. They take a multitude of pictures zooming in around the site. That's uploaded to a computer at Purdue.
Oh, wow.
And a couple of days later, you have a three-dimensional look at the crash scene. It's measured all of the skid marks, everything else there. And it can tell you who was where before the accident, who caused the accident, what speed they were going. That's right now. That's being used daily in this county and in a lot of counties in the state.
Okay.
And, so and of course, if there's somebody lost, he'll go up and look with the drone. If there's flooding, he'll pop it up. And so emergency responders can figure out what roads are open or not. If the SWAT team has to go in someplace, he's there. All the normal stuff you think of with drones. But, this idea of putting everything into basically what we would call the supercomputer in the old days and spitting back out, okay, here's where all the vehicles were. Here's what happened just by that aerial look of the site. And it used to take about half a day to clear out a fatality on the road. It's now down to a couple hours.
Oh, wow.
They'll get the drone up and it speeds everything up that fast. Once they have their footage, they're cleaning up that mess
Wow.
and trying to, return things as normal as it can be.
Well, and that's what, I know that's the thing. It's just so neat with drones too, is they're being utilized in so many different career areas, like whether you mentioned real estate, law enforcement, military, there's so many different career paths that, youth could go into that if they do have a interest in this, this could be a career for them, and that's what I love that
Absolutely.
you mentioned, because, that's what our end goal is to help provide, quality youth training that's going to help provide our youth with, a path where they can go, when they leave high school, they have a direction. And this is neat. I just think this is something that I'm just excited for our listeners to get a chance to have the opportunity to talk with you, with me getting to talk with you today and just hear how you used it and what the potential is for this really neat, technology.
Yeah, it really is. And again, I have to thank Mark for it, because
Yeah.
even though I was a pilot, a private pilot,
Okay.
I still thought of drones as toys.
Yeah.
And, he came out to camp, got me doing some research, and it's like, okay, yeah, no, these are careers.
Yeah. So like if you had, like, from your perspective, what's your hope? Like like when we look at 4-H and the direction, like you said, I think it's going in an amazing direction. But what are your hopes that where you want to see 4-H go and hopefully get to with bringing drones in for our youth?
Well, I think with all the things we do with STEM,
Yeah.
again, it's about helping youth develop skills. It's about helping youth develop life skills too. It's not just how you fly the
Mm-hmm.
drone. It's the rules, the regulations, all the things we do, and everything else we do in 4-H.
Absolutely.
And it's about building those relationships with the youth. I say it's a hook, right? I can get
Mm-hmm.
them in, and now we can talk 4-H to some kids who may never been thinking 4-H. They might be inner city kids, and
Mm-hmm.
4-H is cows and plows to them, and it's nothing
Mm-hmm.
that they ever do. So, looking at how it relates to 4-H, it serves as a hook. It also just fits
Yep.
in very well with our other programs. But I also want to, kind of put out there my belief that in some places there seems to be this divide between
Mm-hmm.
traditional 4-H programs and STEM programs,
Mm-hmm.
and that divide is totally misplaced.
Yeah.
4-H has always been about STEM.
Mm-hmm.
Every day of 4-H has been about STEM. That's why we're tied to a university.
Yeah.
We've always been there to bring the best research-based solutions to problems, to, in some case, rural communities, some case not.
Yep.
But we've always been about STEM. We don't still drive Ford 8 plows or tractors. Yep. We don't do that because there's a better way. We're using
Mm-hmm.
STEM on the farm all the time. If you're getting new equipment, it's going to probably drive with GPS.
Yeah.
So this idea that STEM and traditional 4-H are at odds with each other is totally wrong.
Yep.
We've always been about 4-H. Right now, our other 4-H educator here is taking out, the old favorite, the chicken embryology, the Chick It Out program.
Yep.
To the schools. Well, excuse me, that's teaching science. That's
Yep.
STEM.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need to get away from the mindset that these two don't go together.
Yep. Absolutely. I think you hit on a really important point that, I think, there's a lot of people that automatically just, they assume there's a divide, it's two separate things, but really we've been conjoined for many, many years and people just never realized it. And yeah, I'm just excited for it. And I just, and I hope as we move forward in the future, we see people start to realize that, we're not, the traditional and STEM are together, it is one. And we focus on our programs as one like that, because that'll just help us build and help be able to reach and impact even a larger amount of youth, which is, I think that's all of our hopes as educators for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Bill, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today and sharing your insight and, and just the information you gave today. I feel just is going to be really insightful to a lot of our listeners and educators, and hopefully help maybe pique their interest. And, we get to, we see some new programs come out of this. And if not, just, at least start to maybe begin the wheel turning on how they can develop a new program and bring it to their county one day. And it's just,
Absolutely.
I just appreciate you and thank you very much for taking your time to be with me today. And we'd like to also thank all of our listeners today for joining us on the podcast. And again, this is the Clover Call podcast, and we wish you a very good day. Thank you.
Interested in learning more about Indiana 4-H? We invite you to visit our website, extension.purdue.edu/4H, or contact your local Purdue Extension office and ask for the 4-H Youth Development Extension Educator. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you won't miss an episode. We look forward to joining you again on the next Indiana 4-H Clover Call.